Okay, take it away, guys. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Hi, everyone. Today's speaker is an exciting one. She's an integrated brand strategist with a background in brand, creative, and connections planning. Her authentic love of culture and human behavior has served her well as she's navigated a career rooted in human connections, working with some of the most recognizable agencies and brands, which include State Farm, the Grammys, and Taco Bell. She's also worked with recording labels, including Interscope, Def Jam, and Universal Republic.
She's come from a great list of agencies. She's worked at Translation, Zambezi, TBWA Shy Day, and most recently as the strategy director at Deutsch LA. She now serves as the strategy director at the SpringHill Company, notably founded by LeBron James, the GOAT, and Maverick Carter. At her core, she has the desire to build communities around groundbreaking ideas. So we are extremely excited and happy to introduce Iyana today. If you guys have any questions in the chat, me and Trey will field them, but we are definitely excited to get started.
Let's get going.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. It's better when you say it. And candidly, working on this reminded me of all the wild things. So I'm excited to talk to you guys and just share what I can. I'll pull up my little talk here. Okay, great. So if some of y'all saw my talk for today's price, not yesterday's price, it's a little funny, but I'm hoping it provides a little bit of humor, but also change the pace to some of the talks. I know sometimes people come and talk about, what they're doing in their biz, but you all coming into this industry at such a wild time, I thought maybe what I can provide is a little bit of kind of just a lived experience as someone who has gone through a couple of wild times myself and has had to pivot and change and start over. But what it means to do that in a way that doesn't have you going backwards, but has you continuing to find and refine kind of who you are and what you want to be. So like we said, hi, my name's Iyana. Just a quick set of numbers, strategist first and foremost. So I love a good number. I love a good data point. So 85, that's the year I was born. 2 is the number of continents I've lived on. 17 is the number of homes I've had. Not actual homes, just the places I've lived. 10 years is the longest I've lived in one place. 4.5 is the longest number. 4.5 years is the longest I've worked at one job. 6 is the number of agencies I've worked at. 3 is the number of entertainment companies I've worked at. 6.5 is how many years I've been married, and 2 is how many kids I have. So I say all that to say I'm very much an elder millennial in the room, in the flesh. I move. I cannot stop moving. I cannot stop switching and changing and reinventing. And I'm kind of at that early stage of trying to have a family and do all of that on top of doing all of this. So as we look through the talk, if there's one thing you take away from today, I just want you all to remember that what you're doing today isn't what you're going to be doing tomorrow, and that is totally okay. You all are at an amazing school. In fact, if you all have looked at me on LinkedIn, which I imagine some people have done, you're wondering, why is she here? She didn't go to Brandcenter. What is she going to talk about? You will see, but I think one of the things is that even though you all are getting ready to graduate from one of the best, if not the best, schools in our business, and I know from firsthand, I've worked with plenty of Brandcenter, specifically strategists that are amazing, excellent. But it would be irresponsible for me to tell you that coming out into this industry right now, you guys will just sail off into the sunset and be chiefs of your leagues in no time. The truth is what we do might not last past the next couple 4 or 5 years. And I don't mean this industry, but I mean in the literal title, the literal things that we're doing. It's changing so fast. So I just want to talk about what that looks like and what it means to be okay at the end. So like so many people, I got my love of advertising pretty early on in high school, actually. But in high school, this is what I wanted. All I wanted to do was make ads and live in this world. Mew 2002 was me. I loved the art. I loved the fantasy of it. I loved the spectacle. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to obsess about it and make it and live in this. So I applied and got into the Fashion Institute of Technology, and loved going there as an undergrad experience. It was amazing to be focused on advertising and communications. That was my major, AdCom major, but in a place where everyone else was just so creative and so amazing and so dope. But I quickly learned, a couple years in, that while I really, really like fashion, I do not love fashion. And that kind of brings me to my first principle of reasons to leave your job. Sometimes liking just isn't enough. Like I said, I loved it. I mean, I really, really liked it. I thought I loved it. I got some really dope internships, Fashion Week, working the shows, working behind the scenes. Got to go to London, work for Bloomsbury Daily. But the people, the chaos, the drama, just it wasn't for me. So I had to make a pivot. I had to switch. I was out of fashion school and did not want to do fashion, which was beyond wild. But I didn't know that I love music. I love music. I come from a family of, amateur G League musicians. And I always felt like I wasn't actually a good enough musician to pursue it full time. So I never really took it too seriously. But then in school, I met some peers that were working at labels, that were working with managers, and realized, well, maybe that's something I can do. I know this advertising world, I kind of have this sense of marketing and storytelling. Maybe I could, parlay that into something really, really dope. And luckily enough, I did. Some throwback pictures for y'all. I got my dream job working at Universal Music Group, working on Jeezy's first album, working on MIA's first album, and was just living the dream. I was working in New York. I was as close to music as music could get. I was going to concerts all the time. It was amazing. I'm not gonna lie, it's the best job I've had ever. And things were going really, really cool until they weren't. So I got into the business right as the kind of floor was dropping out of the music industry as we thought or knew it. CD sales were still the primary source of revenue for labels, for sure. And for, a good chunk of artists. So there's no Spotify. I think there might've been an iTunes, but it was for digital. It was to combat Napster. It was not what it is today. So as much as I loved my job and loved what I was doing, the industry as a whole was just changing, and it wasn't doing well. It was kind of like a really sad time to be in music, actually. And then you add to that, if anyone knows anything about 2008, the recession hitting. So I'm in an industry that's kind of tanking. We don't know where the bottom is. There's no hope in sight. And then just when you think, it's cool, I'll just leave music, I'll do something different, the whole country is like, no, there's nowhere to go. I like to compare it to being the last person kind of shoved into a subway train. Like, sure, I got there, like I'm in it. I'm not working, which is, its own thing to be grateful for, but I'm not going anywhere. There's no upward mobility. There's no amazing opportunities. I'm kind of just stuck in the role that I have. If I could actually get really detailed with you, at the time, my role was an assistant level. And because my role was an assistant, I was protected by entertainment union. So I was making more as an assistant than a lot of the people who were above me who weren't in the union. So to get promoted was actually to take a pay cut. Just one of the weird dynamics that happen when you are an assistant or you come out and you work in entertainment. Again, just really stuck in this moment of like, I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And everything around me is kind of just like forcing me to just stay still and just be where I am. But luckily, something was bubbling in the background. I was always really into social media. I was a blogger for a little bit. I can remember a time when Facebook was attached to not only the building you lived in college, but your actual dorm room number. You'd put that in so people could find you. So always was attracted to that. And when Twitter really started popping off, when Facebook really started to become more dynamic, I took it as an opportunity to kind of flex, to show the people I was working with that I was onto something new. I was doing this new thing. And I was tweeting and just being involved and really talking music online. And it really lit a fire under me. Again, maybe there's a new way for me to take what I love, the skill of marketing, of talking, of communicating, galvanizing people around ideas and content. I could take into a digital space, and I could be a part of something that's really new and different. So that brings me to my next reason why you might leave your job. It's better to leave to do something than to stay and do nothing. And that's something that to this day, I really tell people, and I really try and find in myself. There's going to be times where you could just, just ride it out, just ride out the wave, just hang out, take, not the easy route, but kind of just hang out, you just chill. And I say no. If there's something to be done, if there's a place to go, do that. You can always come back to the thing that's just chilling, but you miss an opportunity to learn or to change or to evolve if you don't do the thing, if you don't get up and do something. So I got up and did something. And I went to translation, which if universal working music was the best, this was the hardest. Not that it wasn't good, but translation is hard. And being in advertising in New York, after living in LA and working in music, was hard. The hours were intense. The expectations were sky high. And we used to call it like a summer school. Like you cram all that you would do in a normal school year into like a couple months. We crammed maybe 5 years of ad life into like a couple through things like the Cliff Ball campaign. It was the perfect campaign for me. It was the first thing I really got to own and do. If anyone isn't like a huge basketball fan, you might not be familiar. At the time, State Farm had Chris Paul, who is a point guard. He was playing for the Clippers at the time. And he's good. He's a good guy. He's really, really good. All-star. And they had been working with him for a little bit, and they wanted to have a campaign that felt really fresh, really different. And so Translation at the time owned the piece of business that worked with the NBA for State Farm and developed this pretty simple idea that what if Chris Paul, the basketball player, actually had a secret twin, Cliff Paul, who was a master of the assist the way Chris Paul was on the field, only he assists you with your life. So the ads were hilarious. They're really, really cute. And then for the social part, I don't know if I made that clear. When I came over to Translation, I came over to do social. So I was a community manager. The opportunity I had was to embody Chris Paul online. So I became his voice on Twitter. I think we did a little bit on Facebook, but mostly it was just a Twitter. It was the way that Darth Vader had a Twitter, Angelina Jolie's leg had a Twitter, Cliff Paul had a Twitter, and we trolled NBA Twitter with, is he real? Is he not real? It was so much fun, and it was so hard, but it was the perfect kind of marriage of the skill set that I had at a time when I could do something really, really breakthrough and different. And it felt really, really good. Oh, and then Hurricane Sandy. Like I mentioned, I'm a millennial, or elder millennial even. So there's nothing but tragedy in this story. It's just constant, hit me with it. So I lived in New York during Hurricane Sandy. And again, it was great. It was amazing job, amazing time. But it was one of those things that was like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to be in New York like this. I don't know if I want to live this forever. It's really, really intense and it's really, really hard. And I'm learning a lot, but maybe I could do it somewhere else where blackouts don't take out half the city that I live in. So next reason why you might want to leave your job, you decide to choose yourself. So as much as I love that job, and I still know people at Translation, they're amazing, amazing people. Again, still work harder than anyone I know. But I made the choice to leave New York with my then boyfriend, now husband, and go back to LA and see if I couldn't strike it off on my own, going back west and work in advertising on the left coast. And I did. Ended up at Zambezi on good old Abbott Kinney. And while I was there, it was, again, a really, really good time. If you know anything about Zambezi, at one point in time, it was owned by Kobe Bryant. So that was really, really cool. I got to meet Kobe. And yeah, it was just fun. But I was one of, I think, 2 social bodies that whole agency had. So I took all that I had learned and got from Translation and really put it into use at Zambezi. For me, I think it's a good step for that second job. Your first job, maybe you're a little underwater, maybe you're learning something totally new, maybe you're kind of just at the whim of needing to have a big win, get a big hit on your resume. In the second job, you can kind of take all of that and really push for change. Like, this is how I'm going to run my briefings. This is how we're going to do analytics here. I was really take charge moment. And it felt, again, really, really good to kind of have that opportunity and do those things. But ultimately, I left again because you want to level up. They didn't have the social department, the social media department that I really wanted to be in. I really wanted to have. So went to deep focus, leveled up, became an associate director, and was able to do some really, really cool things there. Like I worked on this campaign with Carrie Hilson. Neutrogena was our main client. And what we were able to do is, as a brand ambassador for Neutrogena, they had a line expansion. So if anyone knows anything about cosmetics, usually the range of cosmetics pre-Fenty was pretty narrow, and there's probably a couple of SKUs at the end for the dark girls. Not even for Black girls, period. It was like light black, dark black, that's it. There's no range. So Fenty really came and shut that up, and all the other brands had to follow suit. Neutrogena was one of those brands who said, we can do better. So they went back to the lab, they created a bunch of new colorways. But during that time, women were still complaining, this isn't dark enough. This isn't the right, it's not the right undertones. It's making me look not right. So when they launched the new line, they had Carrie Hilson call the people who had put in complaints and say, we heard you, like, we have a line expansion for you. Your color should be here. If it's not, let me know. And it was amazing. It was one of the most amazing things I got to work on because, people freaked out. But again, that was like, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be doing bigger work. I want to have a bigger role in the work. So yeah, it was great. It was definitely the job I thought I was going to be in forever. It was the job that I wanted to be in for at least a really, really long time, leading social at an agency that had some really, really big clients. But again, elder millennial, I got laid off. So sometimes the reason why you leave your job is because they ask you to leave. And I say that because I think there's still a lot of, taboo feels weird, but you don't imagine good people get let go. And I'm not claiming myself as like a particularly good person, but I say it because you can be let go and still make it. It happened. It happens for a lot of reasons other than a huge dynamic or a huge dramatic kind of market crash or company failing. I was let go because the company, well, my role was redundant. They hired more directors than they needed, but also the company just wasn't doing well. And this was kind of like the beginning of it kind of consolidating and changing course. But I will say I took it very, very personally. And it was really, really hard, especially when you're doing something that you really, really love. But, you get let go, you got to get back on LinkedIn and figure out what you're going to do next. And luckily, I made my way to Jefferson. So if you guys know anything about LA ad agencies, for some reason, they're all on the same strip in a place called Playa Vista. So TBWA, Deutsch, 72 is over here, Facebook, we're just all on the same drag of like ad people. So I worked at TBWA for a minute, was totally blown away by how amazing it was there. I should say I left doing social to do strategy full time. So I was a strategist solely, was not a social media anything. But while I was there between Deutsch and Chiat, I learned a couple things that I want to share specifically with the strategists in the room. Some things that maybe you've heard, but if you have, I wanted to just reiterate them. Let's see. Oh, so for one, don't be afraid of the boring clients. So when I left working with Neutrogena, working with these big splashy brands, I ended up at TBWA, who had Gatorade, who had the Recording Academy, had the coolest brands. They're like, no, we're going to put you on Principal Financial, a mid-sized finance brand at Iowa. And I took it a little like, okay, that's cool. But also knew that as a strategist, I kind of had to earn my stripes on something a little harder. And as boring as it was so it was hard, but in the best heady way. Selling finance is hard work. People do not want to talk about life insurance. They don't want to talk about their 401ks. They don't want to talk about any of that stuff. So getting them to not only want to talk about it, but think about it seriously, and then go as far, maybe even to trust that this company that's talking to me about it actually cares about me enough to invest with, is really, really tricky stuff. But some of my favorite work has come from working with Printable. In fact, this ad that is the screenshot, we told the story of a Black man who is trying to decide what he's going to do with his dad. His dad's older. He doesn't want to live in a nursing home, but he can't live at home by himself. He's just getting older. He can't take care of things. So he has this flashback of when his dad helped him build a treehouse. And so then he takes a lot of the money that's in his mutual fund or whatever to build an addition onto his house so his dad can live with him. And like, it's a beautiful story of a father and a dad and money paving the way. And the actor in it emailed us and was like, I've never been prouder to be in a commercial. This is the most amazing thing. You're telling a real story. You know, Black families don't get to see themselves in this way all the time. And so that was some of the best work that I've worked on. So don't be afraid of boring clients. They're probably more challenging than they should be. But they will sharpen you and make you a really, really good strategist for the brands that are fun. But you'll think they're too easy after a really good boring client. The next point, stay close to what you love. So while I'm in advertising, working in Printable, working on finance, the thing that I was reminded of that I'll remind you of is never lose sight of the things that you really, really, really love and want to be attached to, and find ways to do it. I never worked for the Grammys, the Recording Academy, but I had friends from music who ended up. So during the Grammys, I would volunteer my time. Like, I'll come tweet for y'all. I'll do screenshots. I'll run reports just so I can stay sharp on what's happening, be attached to big, large scale social moments, to have that strength and have that muscle. It's interning. It's interning with your friends, which is cool. But it's just a way to stay close to the things that you really, really love. And I think maybe I'm preaching to the choir on this one. But if you love fashion, stay close to it. If you love DJing or music, stay close to it. And if you're working at an agency where they feel like, where you're getting the sense that they don't support you staying close to those things, making time to go out and do those things, you might be at the wrong agency, if I can be that bold. Because from what I see, all the agencies that I've worked at have only been all too happy to send me out to, go learn about what the Grammys is doing. Oh yeah, go learn what they're doing. Do you have a record label? Yeah, go do that. Do you own a t-shirt brand? Tell us what it's like to run your own business and do that. You bring so much to an agency culture by being so much more of yourself. So definitely stay close to that. And then I'm gonna try clicking like 5 seconds ahead of time. Okay, nope, go back. The thing I learned at Deutsch was, okay, well, let's stay here. So my work on my own on the Grammys helped me eventually petition to be strategist for the Grammys at Chiat, which was great. I loved it. But my background allowed me to call a spade when a brief came in and it was wrong. I think a strategist, sometimes it's easy to fall in the trap of feeling like you have to use your power of persuasion to make the brief seem right, or to fix it on the back end, solve it with the perfect stat or the perfect comms plan. If none of this sounds right, you'll see it in the first job. What I urge you to do is just call a spade. If the brief is wrong, just speak up and say it's wrong. And it's easier said than done, but it's worth it. For the Recording Academy, they wanted a holiday. They felt like for most people, the work that they do goes unnoticed, because for a lot of the year, aside from the Grammys, what they do is work with what they would call working class musicians, engineers, producers, songwriters. They work on their behalf to, lobby for them in Congress with copyright laws, things like that, to put together funds after things like COVID, when the music industry kind of goes to a standstill, get grants and opportunities for them to get paid even if they're not on the road. They do a lot of work for just an everyday working class musician, but felt like the Grammys kind of was outshining all of that work. So they wanted a holiday comparable to the Grammys to celebrate them. And you're like, but why do you need a holiday? Like, that doesn't help anything. And you already have a holiday. They get awards on the Grammys too. So we pushed back. I pushed back, took a little brief and ran it around Chiat. This is wrong. What they need is a way to give people credit. What they need is something that people can go back to again and again that puts what was in a liner note more front and center in a digital space. So we created a web, like an interface, a platform, like literally a digital platform where any artist or A&R, anyone who's connected to a label can go in and create a behind the record cover that puts all of the liner notes on the front of like a digital like album size note. I should have put it in here. But it's really, really cool. It was strategy working really, really close with the design team who put together like a system, a design system on how to, create scale and width from one credit on an album. For anyone who cares, Bob Dylan, I forget which album it is, but he has the least credits we could find, which is just 2. It's just him and one other person wrote his whole album, all the way to a Beyonce who was like 100 people on an album. But that's speaking up early on and saying, this isn't right, but we can do it better. Never be afraid to do that. Just make sure you have something better on the back end. And then a thing I learned at Deutsch that I really, really want to make sure I share with you all is that no one is an expert in what's coming next. Right before I left Deutsch, I was able to help them launch their NFT. And literally, we didn't know what an NFT was. We spent half the briefing just Googling what it was and trying to figure it out. And now, I think we're all kind of hip to the NFT game. We get it in varying degrees of sophistication. But I say that because the thing that comes next, the thing that we're going to have to solve for, the places we want to be, your CSO is not going to know any more about it than you will. And that's great, because that means as much as you are new and novel and fresh to this business, you have just as much to bring, if not more, because you aren't jaded by old ideas, and you have the opportunity to really show up fresh and excited and optimistic about what we can do with new technology and new things. So never lose grasp of that. Before I knew it, I had seen a lot and been through a lot and been at all the different agencies. But like mentioned at the top, after being with all the agencies, I landed at SpringHill. And now I'm back at, I am back in a place where I don't really know what comes next, but that's my favorite place to be. SpringHill is a weird, funky little place where we make Space Jam and we make Uninterrupted. And Uninterrupted is a sports media company, really, really rooted in the mission to empower and give voice to athletes that feel like all the world wants for them is just to shut up and dribble, just kind of be an athlete. Don't be more than that. Don't care about other things, that be fashion or activism, or music or anything else. They found me because they were looking for a strategist that was really weird, and that's me. And so now I'm hanging out with them and seeing what marketing and the storytelling that we do looks like in this new form, in this new place. I have a couple slides just to talk about it. I say that because when I started working there about 8 months ago, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, they just sound amazing. And if these are people I get to work with, I'll go work with them, because I don't know what we're doing, but it's kind of firmed up. So at SpringHill, our mission is to empower, inspire, and entertain. And so what that means is not just for our athletes, the athletes that we work with every day, but for culture at large. We want to make sure we are empowering people to be their best selves, to be great. When we do that through the stories we tell, we also do that through the way that we tell those stories. Our whole company makeup, I believe it's 50-50 women and men. That might just be the leadership team. But yeah, on my team, I'm one of 2 women directors, which is amazing. And it's 63% minority staff, which is amazing. So on screen and behind, we're trying to empower more stories and more storytellers. We do that as a way to inspire, because we think when you are empowering people to be their most authentic selves, but also empowering people who don't always get the chance, you inspire greatness in others, and they can see that. But then at the end of the day, it's about entertaining. So we make really fun stuff too. We have a new show that I can't wait for people to see, that has Draymond Green playing dominoes. And it's the most amazing thing ever. So yeah, it's a really, really fun time. And I'm really glad that I got the chance to come speak to the school specifically, because what I found is that agencies, they prepare you for a world that is so much bigger than an agency. The work that we do, the storytelling that we have to do, the problems that we have to solve, they're really, really hard, which is why people outsource them to an agency, because they know there's a group of people smart enough and who work hard enough to do it. And we do that. But on the other side of that, there's a world coming that looks really, really weird, that is entertaining and ads and live events and weird NFTs. And I think the skill set that we develop now makes us really, really dangerous in those worlds. The last thing I'll say about SpringHill, right, and then our goal is to change the game. I think the cool thing is, though, after making ads and really, really doing that for a really long time now, I don't have to make ads. I think we're all hoping that our advertising can be bigger than just selling things, but really showing people, communicating ideas, connecting people. And I'm really glad to say that the work that I have done has gotten me to a place where now I get to do that. And it's really, really cool. And I think that's it. Yes, that's it. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone have any questions in the chat?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this presentation was definitely geared more towards strategists, but as an experienced designer, I feel like design and strategy kind of go hand in hand. And I feel like this presentation was really, really helpful. I'm really curious about your like position on how emerging tech and experience design and UX in general play into brand development and the campaigns that you've developed.
Yeah, that's a great question. And also I just want to say I 100% agree. I think strategists and design end up in these weird like wings sometimes, and have similar paths, but also just similar issues, tensions within the workflow. So I think as brands become more, I'm going to say schizophrenic online, a really, really dope design system and thought and point of view is like the only saving grace. Because I mean, even if you look at, maybe Netflix isn't a good design example, but I think about them a lot. Nike is probably a better design example, where like who they talk to, I think as marketers, they get very specific and very, very pointed and very, very in the weeds, but how they show up and where they're going to show up, who knows? You have to be really, really dedicated to a system to be able to be consistent, or else you'll really, really just lose your ability to create brand linkage. I'm using like really bad terms now, but to continue to show people that you are that brand and show up in all of those ways consistently. I think when it gets into the UX and more of the like technology side of it all, yeah, it's hard. It's just really, really hard right now. I'm thinking about this because we're talking NFTs all the time. And I'm just like, I don't even know what that world really firms up to be in a thoughtful way. But I know our designers are on it thinking about kind of like what's the best way for them to like hold tight to a brand identity through all the messy places they have to go. Yeah, it's tricky times. I mean, that's one of those things where I feel like no one's going to know more than you about it. So it's a good time to get in with a point of view, because it is, I promise, it's just as right as anybody else's.
Awesome, thank you.
I think.
Iyana, someone asked if you could stop screen sharing just so we could see on grid view for a
Thank
second.
you. Yep, I can do that.
Justin had a question about interns. I don't know if you guys have like an intern program, or is there anything that you kind of wanted to talk about there?
Yeah, I can follow up with more information with Ashley. We are launching something at the beginning of the year that's kind of like a intern incubator. I think we're trying to bring on a crew at once and then have them kind of like go through a couple of projects together. So less intern per department, which I've seen, but more like travel through. And juniors, yes. I saw that come through in the chat. Specifically, I know on the creative side, strategy is always hard. We could have a whole talk about what it means to be a junior strategist. But I know for design and I know for creative, yes.
Awesome. Tommy has a question as well. You want to ask your question, Tommy? Okay.
I'm just
Tommy
mesmerized.
said, my eyes lit up when you said Space Jam. Could you talk a little bit more about working on that project? And is it true that Bugs Bunny is a diva on set?
Space Jam was wild. So I came in, like I mentioned, SpringHill is like a weird, I should stop calling it weird. SpringHill is awesome. I really, really love being there, but it is not traditional by any means, by any set of means. Entertainment, the advertorial space that we're in, but also the media side as like a uninterrupted media entity. So for Space Jam, I came in right before it was launching, really. So I worked on things like Bugs Bunny showing up on the shop, worked a little bit with our design team who put out the gamer jerseys that were really, really dope with Goon Squad. So what I saw of it was much closer to just like traditional marketing and execution, but I know the team that have been working on it worked on it for years, selling the initial concept to Warner Brothers and then working with them on it. It's wild to be that close to like movie entertainment world. But yeah, it was really, really fun. I think the thing that was most exciting was getting to just be excited about Space Jam again. I mean, that was like, I think the first CD I ever got for Christmas. And so getting to kind of talk about some of those old lores and the old ways that it showed up, it was really fun. Thanks, Tommy.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I think Ali, you had a question next. Did you want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, I was just wondering what you would say the biggest differences, especially creatively, were working between like advertising agencies and entertainment agencies.
Yes, great question. I think two things. So in an advertising agency, the creative is the center. Like at the end of the day, we're all trying to get to the best idea. We're trying to sell that idea to a client. We want them to put this idea, this creative, whatever it is, out into the world. At an entertainment agency, like the creative isn't the idea, like the thing is the thing. So like if it's a movie, if it's a TV show, the production, the energy, the time goes into developing that full thing. And then the marketing around it, or even the initial insight and thought that gets it off the ground kind of fall into the wayside. Which isn't a bad thing because it keeps pace. I don't get sucked into a 2-year timeline of developing a show and going through showrunners and directors and first cuts, fine cuts, all of those things. I'm kind of on to the next. But that's probably one of the biggest differences. The other thing is in an advertising agency, there's very clear structure and roles and responsibilities for the different departments. Strategist is a strategist, account person is an account person, and art director is an art director. But on the entertainment side, those titles don't mean as much. And we're kind of just all in this messy thing together, figuring out ideas. So again, on the good side, it's like, as a strategist, I can pitch a show. Like, nobody knows that a strategist doesn't pitch shows. A strategist just comes with the brief. But on the bad side, sometimes people are like, Iyana, like, you gotta go do the thing. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just write the brief. Just leave me alone.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Sally.
Sabrina's asking, what would you say were the most transferable skills between entertainment agencies and ad agencies?
I think, oh, sorry, hold on. This is really loud. The thing that you learn to do in advertising that I don't think most people can do in any industry is be really concise and get to like the heart of the thing. And that's strategy, that's copywriters, that's account, just getting to the point. We deal in such a fast-paced industry where the thing that we're trying to sell or do needs to be broken down to like the simplest point. That we're really, really, really good at that. And so when I get into spaces where I'm working much more closely with like entertainment, I realize that they don't have the skill set to, if they can do it for a show, like get a show down to like a Netflix level line, they can't do it beyond the show. They can't talk about the community that way. They can't get into the mindset of the audience that way. And then when you work with brands, even more so, what we do from a storytelling perspective and from a communication perspective is so important. And that translates across all of our disciplines, because we're in a service industry where we're always getting people to say yes and buy things, and persuade them to persuade their consumers to do things. Yes, oh, they're lining up. I see them.
Yep, Ryan, you go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ryan, I'm a second year strategist, and I'm curious, this was awesome to kind of see the trajectory that also it's okay if it don't work out sometimes. I am curious, like, what did you look for when jumping to your next job? Was it like the clients that they had, the culture? I'm just trying, we're in that process right now.
Yeah.
So insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it, as you see, it differs depending on where you are in your life and kind of what matters to you. I think clients are important, but I think you're looking for where you, not where you can stand out, but like, what is your unique opportunity there? Sometimes you'll come in at a junior level, but the people above you, the boss you're going to work with, the team you're going to be on is really, really dynamic. And so, you're going to learn from a group that might not really exist in that way anywhere else. Sometimes you have a very specific thing you're trying to do, be that social media or something else. And so you're trying to get onto that. Part of me feels like chasing the client, unless you're going to Wyatt and Kennedy to work on Nike, it's kind of scary, because clients come and go, especially right now, clients come and go. So I think looking for the team, as bad as it sounds, location, like if you want to be in New York, go be in New York. If you want to be in LA, just get to LA. I think it's more about that.
Well, thank you. Helpful.
Okay.
Chauncey, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Iyana. I've really enjoyed your presentation and you talking to us. And I just wanted some advice, because right now I'm on the health team at VMLY&R, and I've never been in health before.
Mm-hmm.
And I transferred to that team from a team that did solely Colgate-Palmolive products.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out if I like health. And also, I just don't know how long it's going to take me to figure out right now if I like it or if I just like my team. Because my team is great, but right now I'm doing positioning research for a software that'll help people take eye tests at home. Yeah. And I don't know. And I don't know if this is where I belong. I don't know if other products are like this. I'm just trying to get my standing.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, like, how long do you think I should give it before I feel like, this is not where I belong?
Don't ask me. You saw I hop around. No, I think this is where you gotta make sure you're doing things outside of work to feed your interests, because I think that's a very, like, I don't want to say specific, but like that's a really dope opportunity. Like, I've never done that. I've never worked with something that specialized. So there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot to transfer, and just working in a field that's so specialized, so regulated. Like, there's a lot of learnings there that once you leave, they'll be like, oh, if she lived through that, she can live through anything. But it can be really daunting and soul sucking. So being able to attach to things that still really matter to you is important. And yeah, I mean, do it as long as you can, but don't do it to the point where it like hurts you.
Okay.
Like, you don't want to become someone that's just like a zombie, which is where you can last longer if you're doing something outside of it that feels like it's additive.
I guess I'm looking at it because it was sold to me as though we take products that don't exist, and so we build a brand with every new product. So that's why I decided to join the team, because every single product that we get or put in front of us, we have to create an entire new brand for it. And I found it to be exciting, even though some of the things that I learn are interesting, to say the least, about healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because also a good team is hard to find. So
it's true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
Justin, you're next.
All right, so I have like one comment and one question.
Okay.
So my name is Justin. I'm a creative. I'm a CBM, and as like an ex-athlete, I like at the beginning of the presentation, I was like, oh, like I was locked in, and then you started talking about SpringHill Company, and I bought in. I was like, oh my gosh, like I started fanboying. I like went on like your website. I'm sitting here like in awe. Like everything you guys doing here are things that I watch or listen to on a daily basis. So like the shop, more than an athlete. Oh man, like I think everything you guys doing are just sensational. And so my one question, it doesn't really pertain to like a whole bunch of like technical stuff, but one of my favorite shows, Survivor Remorse. I was wondering if you know if we're going to get another season.
Survivor Remorse?
Mm-hmm. Like I know it technically like ended, but I didn't know if you have any like
insider information.
Insider information.
I don't think so. Asking the right question. I don't think so. I haven't seen it come up. I can put in a word for you. I can ask.
Oh, that would be sensational.
I'll let them know the streets are talking. They want a second season.
We want a second season.
Okay, I'll see what I can do for you. I was so nervous. I was like, what is he gonna ask me? There's a butt coming.
That was a great show.
It was a great
we have
show.
time for one or two more questions if anyone has one.
I'm gonna just. Okay.
I got a question. Can I ask one?
Go for it.
Yeah.
What's Robot Company? I found that on SpringHill Company's website, you guys have like a consultancy called Robot Company. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I can. They're so dope. So like I said, SpringHill is a larger company that has a bunch of companies underneath. One is SpringHill Entertainment. So they do the Space Jams of the world. They sometimes write, sometimes produce, but always are attached to kind of like the bigger things. And I think this year it's going to launch into more of like an uninterrupted style media, like online platform as well, with like smaller shows and things like that. Uninterrupted is the sports arm. Robot is a media, it's like a branding consultancy, but also super untraditional. So like if you saw LeBron's Balenciaga Fortnite thing, they did that. They have a bunch more work coming with Fortnite and Epic Games. They work really, really closely with with Calm. They do a lot of consulting on behalf of the projects that LeBron works on, but also a lot of times works with those brand independently as well, off of the strength of kind of what they bring during those times. So yeah, the new Calm work with RZA and LeBron, which is so dope. They did that. They're really sharp. But they're closer to a traditional agency in that respect. So, just another aspect of the SpringHill Weird universe that's really cool. Yeah, gaming is massive. Meta, all of that. Oh, cool.
All right. Any more questions before we shake this on up? All right. Thank you so much, Iyana. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was so fun. And yeah, thanks again for the invite.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And those of you who are going to do the post forum chat, I'm going to open up the room right now. So hang tight.